Okay, what's up, movie fans? Welcome back to Max Reviews. This is Brayden, and today we're going to be talking spoilers for Spider-Man No Way Home. So, if you've seen it, don't feel bad to spoil down below in the comments section. Everybody, you've been warned. And, as a background, I absolutely love Spider-Man No Way Home. One of the best movies of the year. This is the same day that I just saw it. I just saw it, 6 hours ago, and I'm still processing it. It's a lot to process. But I decided to just do my spoiler review right here. So let's just kick it off, and we begin with Peter. Right where we ended with Spider-Man Far From Home, with J. Jonah Jameson announcing that it's Spider-Man. And as it plays like Columbia Marvel, we go, Peter Parker is Spider-Man. And J. Jonah Jameson, he's throughout the entire movie sort of in the background doing stuff, which really works, I think, for this movie. And then we start, and just like immediately everybody's crowding around MJ, crowding around Peter, being like, are you Peter Parker's girlfriend? This, and this, and just going on. And he brings MJ back, and he goes to an apartment, and it's right where Aunt May and Happy are breaking up. And so Peter's closing everything, and then immediately, like, on the TV, it goes to Peter Parker is Spider-Man kind of a thing, and there's a helicopter outside, and they're trying to sort through, and then we do like this long sort of like 15-minute montage sort of thing while we're going through everything in Peter Parker's life, where Mysterio is done, and everybody's thinking that Mysterio's right, and so they're checking him out, the law enforcement people, and some people, they are really just angry at Peter throwing goo at him, green goo for Mysterio, yelling at him, protesting, but there's some people that are just like, Peter Parker's Spider-Man, like Flash, who I feel like this movie, the first half an hour, it just seems like it's doing that transition from like our nice high school thing to like, seriously, this is serious, big Spider-Man themes and big twists and turns with everything. And so this feels like the beginning, like we're still in Homecoming, we're still in Far From Home. Flash wrote a book about how he and Peter are best friends and how Spider-Man is great. I feel like Flash could have been, he did what we were hoping he would do after figuring out Peter is Spider-Man. Just, it seems right, he still talks to Peter, but now he's sort of pretending that he's his friend kind of a thing. And then just everybody's protesting, and then the law guys come in, and they're like, yeah, you need a lawyer kind of thing. And that's what they're telling everybody, and just tricking Ned into this, and talking to Aunt May about how, and she's telling them how it's not legal for them to do this because it's just a video. It could have been edited, which it was. And so then we get this really just quick scene where Charlie Cox, Daredevil, just steps in and is like, okay, I'm Matt Murdock, and here's your case. And he's telling them that they cannot be prosecuted or anything like that. They're going to be okay. It's just, they know Peter Parker's Spider-Man now. And then just somebody throws a brick that says, like, Mysterio was right, and he just catches it. And so they're sort of putting it down that the Netflix shows, all that stuff, this is still, all the Netflix shows are basically canon for me right now, with Kingpin and now Daredevil being in the MCU. And then you just have that moment where he catches the brick. And there's been a bunch of leaks with this. I sort of forgot about them. I did see them. And then also there've been leaks like that say that he's going to be in She-Hulk. He's going to have his own spin-off series, and he's also going to be in Echo. I would love to see Daredevil more. Daredevil's like my favorite show of all time. Absolutely love it in his characters, and so happy it's in the MCU now. But right now, he just shows up as their defense attorney kind of thing, states the facts, catches a brick, and then he's gone. Rest of the movie. Nice cameo, in my opinion. It's just Marvel showing you that, yes, we're doing Marvel Daredevil things. So that was just nice. And then we sort of move on to Peter being back at school, and just, this is still like this transition where it can feel a bit awkward at times. Like, you have Flash and the teachers and basically everybody except for MJ, Ned, and Peter, and everybody else is just gone from the other movies, other than Aunt May, Happy, MJ, Ned, and Peter. Just all the side characters, background, gone. So that just, after going Far From Home, which I felt it went too cheesy. It went too cheesy with the jokes sometimes. Too many jokes that they just kept going and going. And it didn't feel like it didn't have enough sort of oomph to it. I didn't feel. This movie had a ton of oomph. So moving on from there, we go to Peter Parker. He's at school, and just the teachers that we saw from Far From Home, it's just nice to see them. Like, Mysterio is right, or like, yeah, we created this entire thing for you, Peter. It's just nice, sort of like the cheesy jokes, like, yeah, kind of thing. I'm fine with that. And for this little scene, and then Peter Parker, he sees a Wizards thing at like Halloween stuff where he, MJ, and Ned, they don't get into college. And now I'm in high school right now, and getting into college is a huge thing. And they're doing it because he's Spider-Man. So Peter's just, I understand that. I can sort of feel for that. It makes sense, is the best way to say it. So I sympathize with our characters here, and I understand what they're going through, kind of thing. Like, college is a big thing. So he doesn't make it. His friends don't make it. It doesn't matter to him if he makes it or not, mostly, but his friends. It's affecting his friends. It's affecting Aunt May. They moved in with Happy Hogan. They're going down. Things aren't going too great. And then just this moment where he sees the thing and he goes to Doctor Strange. And it's all snowy there because portal to Siberia had a blizzard or whatever. And so that's just sort of a nice little detail. And you get this stuff from the trailer, except for it seems Wong now is the Sorcerer Supreme, which is very interesting for me with Multi-Universe of Madness coming up. Wong being the Sorcerer Supreme, not Doctor Strange. Very interesting there. And so they don't really have don't cast that spell and Strange winking kind of thing. Wong is just like, I don't care. And he just walks away. And then Doctor Strange, he casts the spell like almost immediately, which for some people that might be a problem with, like, they don't really go into this. He's just like, yeah, let's erase everybody's memories of Spider-Man, that Peter Parker's Spider-Man. And so they're doing it, and Peter just saying, like, I need you to do, you need to do MJ, you need to do Happy, you need to do Ned. And then he said, is Aunt May, and then, so it's just, all this stuff. And then Doctor Strange, just, it destroys everything, and it's just, everything is being blown apart, and it's so amazing. And I think, I'm not 100% sure, no, I'm 100% sure I saw an outline of a person in the stars. It has this, like, purple stars, and this is very interesting to me. I like, there's some guys that do breakdowns, Easter eggs and stuff. I want to see what that was. Is it Galactus? And, like, this is very interesting to me with that. But anyway, Doctor Strange puts it down, and it's, like, contained, the spell, and he just basically throws Peter out after that. And because he's like, Peter, you didn't call the people, like, you could call them and state your case. And Peter didn't think of that. Like, he's a teenager kind of a thing, you know? Going into college, he's under stress, so he just does that. And so he's going to find the person who is the whatever college thing. So he's going there, and then just Doc Ock shows up. After he's talking to her, like, in the thing, and then Doc Ock shows up. And it's just so awesome. Like, my theater, when Doc Ock showed up, and then later Green Goblin just, yes! And just like, whoa. They're just, wow. And so he shows up and goes, hello, Peter, and just, he takes the nanobots, which I think is really cool because, and he's like, your fancy suit can't do it. And just all the things that you've been seeing in these little TV spots. It's just so fun to see him again and being like, we got competition, talking to his tentacles and all that stuff. It's just so fun to see Doc Ock again. So great. And then he has his fight with Peter. Peter saves some people in cars. He saves the lady in the end. And then the nanobots, he takes control of them. And so Doc Ock's arms are like that. So it's just, he's sort of controlling the arms, so Doc Ock is just frustrated. He's just a guy, actually. You don't think about it. He's just a guy. And so Peter then saves the lady, and she says, I'm going to rethink about you and your friends with school and that sort of stuff. And then you just have this moment where he's like, who are you? And then Doctor Strange sort of shows up and, well, no, not then, but first Green Goblin shows up. There's a pumpkin bomb, an explosion, and then there's the laugh, and Green Goblin, classic Green Goblin shows up, and it's just my theater, that's when they got even bigger, the biggest round of applause yet, kind of thing, like, yes, and then we just cut to the Doctor Strange with Peter and Doc Ock, and Doc Ock is captured, and Doctor Strange says that they found the lizard who we found in the sewers. So he says that they gotta catch everybody and just round them all up. And so they do that. He's saying that they gotta do that, and he gives Peter like this special magical thing that'll just teleport them right in the prison. And so that's what they're trying to do, and they're going after the thing, and this got a big laugh at everybody. He's like, and I saw this guy, he looked like a flying green elf. And just everybody starts laughing in my theater. And then we just go on. Doctor Strange is sort of hunting for people. And Peter, he goes and he knows that there's this surge of energy. And then behind him, that's shot in the thing, he sort of, I think he turns his suit inside out kind of a thing. And that's why it looks so different. So because it had like green Mysterio goo on it or whatever. I don't know. And so he just uses that. And behind him, Electro shows up. And this Electro this is a great Electro, I gotta say. He tries to shoot him and it goes right through him. And then Electro's going for him. He looks slightly, for like a second, he looks like the blue version. Just the outline. And then Sandman is also there. He just shows up and he blocks it. And he fights on Spider-Man's side, like, and he's explaining, I'm not your Spider-Man. There's another Spider-Man. And so you have And so you have Electro, and he sort of gets into this universe, and they cut all his energy away, and he just turns into, like, Jamie Foxx. And I feel like out of the villains, Electro is the most improved because I have a villains list. I'm going to be ranking all the villains, and before this list, he was, like, I think he was bottom 5 villains. He was just, I didn't like him. He might have been bottom 3. And with this movie, they made him like Jamie Foxx. Great job with this guy. He's a lot better. He looks cooler. His action scenes are cooler. He just, his ideas, the world, everything, he's better. A lot better. A ton better. And so Peter puts him in the cage, and then he gets Sandman and puts him in the cage, and then they're going for Green Goblin, because I think he's the last person. Let me think. A second here. So yeah, they're going for Green Goblin, and you just have him as like this homeless guy for a moment, and the Green Goblin guy is just talking inside his head, the other version of Norman, and he just takes the mask and destroys it. And just that, it's just so great. He's sort of like getting rid of it, and he's really messed up in his head. He's lost everything. His son Peter. He's lost just everything. And so he's just a muddled mess. And so he goes and, like, Aunt May says that she found him at the homeless society and he's in her house. And she says that he's not right in the head, kind of a thing. Something happened to him. And so Peter, he just brings him to the place. He doesn't, like, beam him there with the special thing Doctor Strange gave him. And so Doctor Strange, like, okay, here's the magic box thing. If you push this button, we're going to get rid of him. And he's going to do it. And Peter just takes it away from him. And he's trying to get away because, like, Norman, you understand? He's like, help me, kind of a thing. And it's just so cool to see the character interactions where Electro's like, he's there and he's like talking to the lizard and he's like, you're Doc Connors, you're dead. And then Sandman, he's like, Doc Ock and Norman Osborn, you guys are dead. And then just everybody's talking to each other. And Doc Ock and Green Goblin's relationship is like the best villain relationship between each other. And it just really works. Like, I think that Lizard and Sandman are sort of sidelined in this movie. Sandman's the worst villain in this movie, but Lizard, he's just sort of brought up a bit. He talks as a lizard. He's just okay. Electro, he wants to stay in this world. He's got that new energy. He looks better. He's more confident. And Jamie Foxx is like playing Jamie Foxx instead of playing like a nerdy, over-the-top Spider-Man fan that got just brought down by Spider-Man and wants the world to see him. But and then Doc Ock and Green Goblin are like the legends. So I thought it was really cool how they did that, and so they're just talking, and you have this really cool fight, Peter versus Doctor Strange here, where they're going into the mirror dimension and using portals, and it's just so cool how it looks. It, like, I gotta say, Doctor Strange, the movie looks really cool, like Inception level cool for that kind of stuff. And then this movie, I think it might even look cooler. Like, it is really amazing. And so I cannot wait for Multi-Universe of Madness even more now, because it's just, this is going to be really cool to see all these visuals. And so you have this big fight, Peter versus Doctor Strange. It goes through a bunch of stuff, and then it goes, Doctor Strange makes a portal, and Peter like does geometry and traps Doctor Strange and webs and stuff, and Peter takes his sling ring and jumps through the portal, leaves him in the mirror dimension, and gives the sling ring to Ned. And so he is deciding to fix all the villains. And so this is when we have all the villains sort of get out of their cages, kind of a thing. And he's like, either you could go back to your place and die, other than Sandman, basically, or we could try to fix you. And so they go to Happy Hogan's apartment and have this, they all pass in front of the security camera, and Happy's just like, what is going on? And so they leave Lizard in the van, and then he tries to fix all of them. First, he takes Norman Osborn and he fixes the chip that's in his head, in the back of his head. And just they fix Doc Ock, and Norman Osborn is helping Peter, which is really cool to just see him be helping Peter, being like the scientist guy. And so Doc Ock is fixed, and he's like, it's quiet. And he's just, Alfred Molina is a great actor and great for this role. And he just sits down, and he's like, it's okay, Peter. They unbond all the nanobots, and it goes back into Peter's suit. And so Doc Ock is just, let's fix everybody. Like, they're going to try to work on a serum to get rid of Green Goblin out of Norman Osborn. They're working on a serum for Lizard. Electro, they got this thing charging on him to get rid of all this energy. And then Sandman, they're working on something for that. And they're all working on it. And then Sandman and Electro are having to talk like, Electro's like, I like this new energy, this new world. I feel more strong here. And Sandman's just like, I have a daughter. I want to get back home, but I don't want to die. So he's just going to go along. And they're sort of plotting a thing. And Lizard's just out there waiting. And so the Spidey sense kicks in. Aunt May is there. And she has this thing sort of with Green Goblin. She's the one that found him at the homeless place. And so we're going, and then they got the thing for Electro going, and they're working on stuff, and then he's like, stop, and he webs Green Goblin, and he's like, he knows with his Spidey sense that Green Goblin is going evil, he's taking over Norman again, and he's like, Green Goblin is working on this thing to get away, to do his stuff, and so Green Goblin, he decides that he doesn't want to be cured, and he sort of gets the other villains and is like, these are gifts. And so Electro chooses. He takes off the thing that's about to get rid of his electricity. Sandman sort of sides with him. Lizard's still down there. And Doc Ock is sort of defending Spider-Man. And then just this really nice scene happens where Green Goblin gets his stuff and is coming, and Electro's fighting him, and it's just Peter is being destroyed. And also, J.K. Simmons, J. Jonah Jameson is down there recording this stuff, and it's just really, Peter's being beat up hard in this movie. Like, he is going, and while this is happening, like, Ned and MJ, they're back at the thing with the box, ready to send everybody back. But while this is happening, that's what they're doing. But, like, Lizard is crushing Peter against the building. Electro's electrocuting him. Sandman is just punching him. Green Goblin, he just destroys him. And then he gets his glider. And you just have this amazing scene where he comes in. He's fighting with Spider-Man. He's above him. He could just punch him down and Spider-Man's out. May comes up. She's got the serum thing. Puts it in him. And then Green Goblin is not gone. And Norman Osborn is still Green Goblin. And he says it doesn't work. And he gets on his glider. And then Aunt May is sort of facing Peter. And then Green Goblin gets on his glider, comes up behind her, and just hits her. And she falls down. And, like, my theater just, like, gasps. And then Green Goblin, he's got, like, this hood, and he looks more comic accurate. He looks pretty cool. With his new suit, he's got this hood. Looks sort of a bit like Hobgoblin with the hood. And then he's also got his old gear on. So Green Goblin in this movie looks really cool. So he comes, he stabs Aunt May with the glider, which he remote controls it and hits her, and he just sort of escapes, kind of a thing. And then after he throws a bomb, pumpkin grenade, and then Peter is just there with Aunt May, and it's like the audience is all like, what are they gonna do? Like, there was two people behind me, and one of them was like, are they gonna kill her? And then the other person was like, no, she's gonna be fine. And she got up, and it looks like she's gonna be going okay. And then she just falls down. And you see there's a bunch of blood. She's not gonna make it. And she says, Peter, with this great power comes great responsibility. And she adds a few words, but basically, she does say that, and you're just like, oh, that's what they're doing. And I feel like this is what I really liked about this movie. Well, the first half of this movie, where you have these darker, more mature moments that they feel like they could dwell on the pain. Like this, they don't just go to another joke after this. It's just, she says that, and you realize, Peter Parker, why, I don't like that they've been having him go, like, they had him go to Europe in the last movie, and then they had him just go to the Washington Monument, and then we haven't seen him do the classic Spider-Man stuff. And now you understand, like, this is the ending of Peter Parker, like, this Spider Kid, and then this is gonna be the real Spider-Man is coming. There's gonna be 3 more films with Tom Holland, he's saying, and we're gonna be getting the real Spider-Man, and I feel like that this moment, it just works so bad with great, because I was not expecting Aunt May to die. I was thinking maybe MJ would die or something, and I was wrong, little thing, but Aunt May, she just dies right there, and you see Happy, he pulls up because he saw the villains, and the police are coming, and just all this tension that has been going on here, and you see Aunt May dead. Happy sees it, he sees Peter, and you just have this long moment of just death lurking, just sadness. And Happy Hogan, he just, like Aunt May, it was more of a fun thing with her, but Happy Hogan, he really cared about her, and she's dead. And so just like Happy Hogan, he's been here since Iron Man, and he's been there for a lot of emotional stuff, but in these Spider-Man movies, he's been mostly here for jokes. And here you really feel that emotion. And, like, the cops are cuffing him down, and he's like, "Go, Peter, go!" And Aunt May's there. Tom Holland is giving such a great performance here. And then it just goes to black. And we have J. Jonah Jameson. He's sort of going through these recap things the entire movie. And he's like, Spider-Man did this and is a menace kind of thing. And a casualty, and it looks really cool. He's standing there looking at it, crying, and like the shot in the trailer with him crying with the blood, and he's standing there. It's just like you understand this pain. Like Uncle Ben in Spider-Man 1, that means a ton, and it means a lot more than the Uncle Ben in The Amazing Spider-Man, but you only spend like half an hour, 45 minutes with him, and then Gwen Stacy, she really hits hard. That's the hardest death. But here in this universe, we spent 3 movies with Aunt May, and I was not expecting them to do this. This was a great twist where they did it. They pushed it. And like the other Spider-Man movies, more fun, more campy, more like there's been Ant-Man and Spider-Man for like if you want some fun movies. And then you get this movie, and it just doubles down on actually making a great, hardcore movie. And, like, John Watts, the director, been a bit mixed on him. With Homecoming, I thought he did a good job. Pretty good job. Far From Home, I was disappointed. And then they're saying he's doing Fantastic Four, and I'm like, really? I don't know. I don't know if I trust John Watts with this. But after this movie, I'm thinking John Watts, hope you do good with Fantastic Four, and I think you could do the best Fantastic Four movie. But just the performances in here, and the director, and the way that they just dwell on it. Like other Spider-Man movies, they don't usually have these deaths. Like, let's think, Homecoming, you had Shocker die, the original Shocker. He was just like played as a joke. And then in Far From Home, Mysterio dies, and it's more like he wins. They don't really have this big dramatic death. And they just they redo the Uncle Ben, which is so perfect with Aunt May because you're not expecting it. Okay, so after that, we go to Ned and MJ, who she's like, I'm going to push the button. I'm going to send these guys back. Peter, I'm not hearing from him, so I'm just going to push it. And if you think about it, that would probably just fix all their problems. But still, you'd be giving up on the villains. But Ned and MJ are there, and Ned, he's got the sling ring, and he tries to do this thing, and he makes a bit of magic. You're like, oh, are they going to do this? And he's like, I just wish we could see Peter here. And they open the portal, and then you see a Spider-Man coming, and he walks through, and then that lying bastard, Andrew Garfield, takes the mask off, and Andrew Garfield, Peter Parker, from The Amazing Spider-Man, walks in the portal. And then the portal closes, and it's just like, yes, this is when my theater went insane. The biggest, yes, clapping. Just like, people like, whoa. They actually did this. And I gotta say, this was probably one of the best. This is my favorite theater experience ever. Just because the food, I had a tub of popcorn. I was not getting the popcorn. My sisters and mom could get the popcorn. I was watching this movie, had great food, surrounded by a biggest theater that I've probably been in with packed people, ton of people in it. And just when this happened, I've heard people say that it was bigger than Endgame. Just, for me, that's biggest crowd eruption I've heard. And it's just like, yes! And they're like, have so much fun with this. And Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man, that I've always said that Peter Parker, Andrew Garfield, is such a great Spider-Man. Just he's in not good movies, Spider-Man movies. And so you have this great thing. They're like, are you Peter Parker? And they ask him, and he touches the ceiling. And he's just holding there by his fingers. And so they ask him to crawl, and he crawls. And they're like, what do we keep doing this? We keep doing this until we find him. And then the crowd was like, yes, they're going to actually do it. And he opens a portal, and Toby Maguire walks through. And it's just like, yes, you saw where this is going. And it makes sense with Ned, because he had said something to Doctor Strange like, I've been wondering, my grandmother says that we have, like, magical stuff. And he's like, Doctor Strange just shrugs him off. And then also, Peter Parker took the sling ring from Doctor Strange, so Doctor Strange couldn't get out of the mirror dimension. And then they give it to Ned. And so it's just so perfect how it works. And so I felt like this really worked. This is what I wanted to see when I came to the theater. And it just came through, and they're like, wait, you're Spider-Man too? And he's like, yeah. And just immediately when Andrew Garfield and Toby Maguire see each other, they just shoot webs at each other and attack and just do the exact same moves. And it's just so cool. And then they just have talk like, oh, your universe, you got this? And then they're like, you got another suit other than that youth pastor? And just our crowd is like, yes, laughing out loud. So fun. And they like, we got to find Peter. And so they're talking like, we all had our place to stay. And then like Toby Maguire, he says this place that you always see him in his movies, like the eagle head thing. And Andrew Garfield, he's like, I had the Empire State Building. And they're just talking each other. And it's just like, yes, so amazing. And then they're wondering, and it's the place on top of his high school for Tom Holland, Spider-Man, where he stays there. And it's just like, they're still dwelling on this sadness here. You actually understand it. And he's like, you can tell he is like destroyed. Like, this is the saddest sort of death by a character for motivation in like Amazing Spider-Man, and this in Spider-Man No Way Home. This is like the best. Like, the death hits hard because you were not expecting it. And Peter was definitely not expecting it. And he's been the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. But he loses somebody finally after all this time. And he's just staying there, and he's like, MJ and Ned come up, and they're just like, hey, it's all right. And then they're there, and they're like, there's some people there. And Peter's just angry. And you don't understand. He is angry. He just lost his one person in his life other than his two friends, his like mother figure. And he just lost her. And then you have Toby and Andrew come down, and they're like, where's Spider-Man? And then they're like, she said, with great power. And then Toby finishes up, comes great responsibility. And Andrew Garfield sort of nods, and it's just so perfect to see these three together. Whenever they're on screen together, it's so amazing. And just, they talk to each other like, I lost my girlfriend, goes Andrew Garfield. And he said, I got bitter. I still got fighting crime, but I got bitter. And I couldn't save her. And Toby's like, I hunted down the guy that I thought killed my uncle and killed him. And it didn't really fix anything. And they're like, you shouldn't go down this path. It doesn't work. And Tom, he just seems like he wants to kill Green Goblin. You could just see that in his eyes. But he's calming down now. And he's trying to figure out what to do. And so they decide that they're going to get the villain cures and take them down. So they're just like, okay, so the lizard, they're like, that guy. And Andrew Garfield was just like, yeah, I got this. And then there's this like odd silence, like, really? It took forever working on the other things, and then it's just like Green Goblin's no, and for the lizard, and Andrew Garfield's like, yeah, I got this. I did this before. So they just get going on it, and Toby Maguire, he's like, I'm gonna fix the Green Goblin thing. I've been thinking about that for a very long time. Because if you really think about it, yes, that makes sense. It took his best friend and then his best friend's dad over control with just this anger. So he's gotta try to fix it. And Tom Holland, you can see him, he's sort of like resentful of Green Goblin, just him saying the name, and just like, I don't care what you do with him because I want to kill him, kind of a thing. And so they work on another thing for Electro, and Tom Holland, he's working on the thing for Sandman, and then they're all working together, and then they just sort of pause all the anticipation, all of this, like, oh, they're actually going to fight the villains. Wow, no. They just sort of pause here while they're working on this stuff and have banter and stuff. Like, Ned is wondering, what? He talks to Yeah, so anyway, Ned, he goes up to Toby Maguire, and he's like, did you have other friends? Because before he'd been talking about, like, other versions of him, and we haven't seen that. And he's like, Toby just says that he had a best friend, but he turned evil and he died in his arms. Referring, of course, to Harry. Andrew Garfield doesn't say anything, but he gives him a look like, yeah, same thing with me. But the other Harry didn't die. And it's just like Ned just sort of it plays on a while, and Ned's just like, wow. Just these perfect moments for this. The interactions is just Ned being like, wow. Because he doesn't know that it's Harry. And this is probably a reference to Ned. A ton of people are thinking he might be Hobgoblin in this movie. And he turns into Hobgoblin in the comics, but he didn't, of course, and this is just a great moment for that. And so they're working on this stuff, and they're getting it all together, and then they have more conversations, and then they finally notice that, like, Toby, he has just this stuff coming out, and they're like, whoa, that's coming out of you? And Andrew and Tom are just, like, fascinated. Andrew's just, like, freaked out. And, like, they have weird questions with that, like, does it come out anywhere else? Just, like, these weird questions that it just, I heard a bunch of people talking, like, what if they talk like this? And then, they're like, Peter? And then they all point to each other. Just so much payoff for everything that I wanted it. And, like, it's just so perfect. And then they just point to each other and they're like, Peter Parker, Spider-Man. They're like, yeah, we're all that. It's just so perfect. And Andrew's talking, he never found anybody else, and since Gwen died. And then Toby's like, MJ and me, my MJ, he goes, we worked it out. And it's just like, I wanted to know that. I wanted to know if Toby and MJ actually did they work it out. Because it doesn't seem like they got married and lived happily ever, but seems like by the end of Spider-Man 3 they worked it out. And so just all these interactions are so perfect. And then they're like, let's bait them. And so they get the magic box thingy that can destroy them, and they put it on camera, and they do it on TV with J. Jonah Jameson, and they're like, yeah, here's the box, I know you guys want it, come and get it. And so it shouldn't work. If you think about the plot of this movie, it shouldn't really work. Like, the village should totally be like, oh yeah, this is a trap, but it works for some reason. Like, this entire movie, if somebody picks it apart and it's like very tiny details with the plot and like this doesn't make sense, I understand it. But for me, this movie absolutely worked on every level, except for like the beginning where it started a bit slow and started from Spider-Man Homecoming, Spider-Man Far From Home into like actual Spider-Man sort of stuff. And just, this is one of my favorite movies of the year. And so in January 1st, 2nd, 3rd, sometime in there, it's going up in the air right now. I'm going to do all my movies in this one. Little spoiler, it's coming in top 10. I'm loving it. So, we have, if you think about in every movie, Peter is destroyed a national monument, and you have him destroying the what was it called? They went to see the white building in Homecoming where it exploded. And sorry if I can't remember it, people. I'm not gonna look it up or anything. But that tower, and then he destroyed like a very big clock tower and also a bridge when he went to Europe. And so now he's going to the Statue of Liberty, which they're giving Captain America's shield. And it's just like J. Jonah Jameson said, he's so perfect. It was like, Spider-Man is gonna be destroying another national monument. And just, you see, I don't know when, but in the movie you see this, like, this newspaper thing is like, does Spider-Man hate national monuments? It's just so funny and perfect. I like J. Jonah Jameson being, throughout the movie, having his daily Bugle broadcast, talking about Spider-Man. So anyway, the villains show up, and it just basically starts with Sandman and Electro and Lizard showing up, and they're all fighting, and just like Lizard, he gets webbed up. They're like, wait your turn, Sandman. They fight him while he just swirls around the thing, and just that shot. And there's also Electro, and you just have that shot that was in the trailer, whereas there's 3 villains, Sandman, Lizard, and Electro, coming for Tom Holland, but there's also Toby Maguire and Andrew Garfield, and Andrew Garfield does indeed kick the Lizard in the head. Wow, it's just so perfect to see them fight, and just the Lizard, he's talking, and, he's just, when they do transform him, well, no, I'm not gonna get to that yet, but they transform Sandman, I think, first, and it's just a swirly thing, and it just turns him back to the guy, and I watched a YouTube video that showed it later that this was reused footage for Spider-Man 3, and then eventually The Amazing Spider-Man, and I didn't realize that, but I could tell it's the same actor, so that's interesting. I don't know why they didn't get the actors to do it. There's probably a reason behind that, but, just so the actors are just doing voices, I guess. And so Jamie Foxx Electro is like the main one out of those 3 villains there before the other ones show up. So they're talking with Lizard, and they're talking with Electro and Sandman and stuff. And Toby, he's like, they had this moment where they just got beat up by everybody, and they're like, we don't know how to talk together and work together, and like they just pause the thing. You're supposed to build this tension where the villains are all coming for them, and they're just like, yeah, so we need to figure this out. They just pause the battle, which is so perfect. It's what I wanted for this movie. Oh, and I should say MJ and Ned, they have a portal leading back to like the hideout where they were keeping the villains enslaved kind of thing earlier in the movie, and Ned can't close the portal, and they have the cube thingy. So the Lizard goes in, and then Tom Holland gets it out. But right then, you have them just talking underneath the bridge. And Tom's like, I have some experience with this. You guys might be a bit more experienced than me, but I know how to work together. And he's like, I'm with the Avengers. And Tobey Maguire's just like, great! Who are the Avengers? And just like, and Andrew Garfield's like, what, are they a band? Are they some sort of band? And he's like, they're like Earth's Mightiest Heroes. He's like, it's never mind. It's just so perfect to see Tobey Maguire. Who would have thought Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield come back after all these years, and just hearing him be like, great! Who are the Avengers? And Andrew Garfield, he's cool, he's enthusiastic, but he also is a bit shaken up, sort of a thing. He's a bit awkward. Tobey Maguire, he's the older Spider-Man, but he's not a genius. He's still, like, enthusiastic about things, but he could be funny at times, and he could also be really emotional. It was just so perfect to see these 3 together. Their character dynamic is so perfect. The actors are so good. It's just so wonderful. And so, they also have this moment where Andrew Garfield's like, I love you guys. And just there's a little awkward silence. It's just so perfect. And then Andrew Garfield, they're just talking, and like, they're like, what? While they're waiting for the villains to get there, they're like, what is the coolest villain that you ever fought? And then Toby Maguire's like, yeah, I fought like a goo monster from space, talking about Venom, and then Tom Holland's is like, yeah, I fought a purple alien in space, and then Andrew Garfield's like, yeah, I got some Russian guy in like a rhino costume. Of course, referring to Rhino, he's like, I want to fight somebody from space. You guys, it's just so wonderful. I cannot emphasize how great this is. And just the people in our theater, you could tell them. You could tell they were like, they're back. And some people, they were older there, and they're like, they'd probably grown up with Toby Maguire or Andrew Garfield, and they were just so happy to see them together. And then you get all three Spider-Man swebbing together, and they're beating everybody up now, and then Electro, Andrew Garfield's talking to Electro, he's like, Max, it's okay, and Electro, he's just like, you're not going to take this away from me. He gets the arc reactor, he has had it, and he's getting a lot more energy and stuff, and then also you have this other scene, right before this happens, with MJ, and it's the shot that you see in the trailer, where she and Ned, they're running away from the lizard, and then she falls. And you see the Spider-Man hand come, and it's Tom Holland, and then he gets knocked away by Green Goblin, who just shows up. Well, actually, no. I'm getting mixed up with the order. But anyway, Lizard, he gets fixed, Sandman gets fixed, Electro, you get this scene where Electro, he's coming up to destroy Andrew Garfield with electricity. And then who comes up but Doc Ock, and he's been working. You can tell they didn't really flash to him or anything, any of these villains, and you just could tell he was doing it. He takes the thing that was loading very slowly, like bloop, 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 and it took forever to do, like 5 minutes, I don't know. Now we got it. It goes super fast, and it just electricity gone. And then Doc Ock is just like, I'm on your side kind of a thing. And it's just great to see Toby and Alfred Molina back together again. And then after Electro's taken care of, just Green Goblin shows up. And this is the part where MJ's falling. And Green Goblin, he shows up and he just rams into Tom Holland's Spider-Man and stops him from saving MJ. And so Andrew Garfield jumps down. My theater's like, yes! And Andrew Garfield jumps down and saves MJ. He stops her. He jumps down. He grabs onto her. And then they fall together and he grabs the web. He figured out how to do it. He's been thinking about it. The guilt. And he's like, are you okay? And she's just like, I'm fine. And then she's like, are you crying? And he's crying. It's just, it could be so funny and sad and happy at the same time. It's just so great right there. Anyway, so you probably saw in the trailer, like, the Statue of Liberty thing was starting to get destroyed. And anyway, Captain America's shield goes down, and that's where Tom Holland Peter, and Green Goblin fight. And he's just, like, duking it out with him, going punch for punch. Green Goblin doesn't really even fight. Just Peter, he takes a bomb, like, explodes it on the thing. The glider goes down. Green Goblin detaches from the glider. And just Peter is punching him and punching him. Just, he punches him like a dozen times and then lifts him up to punch him more. He just gets rage. And then Green Goblin, he's just laughing. He's just laughing maniacally, just crazy. And Peter's just punching him and punching him. And then he grabs the glider and puts it above him. He's going to kill Green Goblin right here. You see, and just, you sort of shift to Andrew Garfield and Toby Maguire just looking at him. And they just see him and they're like, he's going down the wrong path. And so, Tom lifts it above his head and then he puts it down and Toby Maguire stops it. He puts his hands in front of him, and just the way they looked at each other in the eyes, and you could just see it between them, that Toby's like, you can't do this, you can't kill him, that's going too far. And Tom's like, I don't want to give him another chance, I want to kill him, he killed my Aunt May. And you just see this battle between them with their eyes, with no words. And so Tom Holland, he sort of backs off. But then Green Goblin stabs Toby. And so Andrew Garfield just throws a quick serum to Tom Holland. Tom Holland stabs in the Green Goblin, sort of gives it up to the Green Goblin. And then you have this moment where it's like, are they going to kill Toby Maguire? And you know they will possibly do that. They did it with Aunt May. And he's just there, and he gets stabs, and he's laying down, and you're like, are they going to kill possibly the greatest Spider-Man ever? And then they don't really, but I'm fine with that. They just have this moment, and then they sort of move on, and it's sort of like a jokes. But one thing I should mention happens before this. Ned is falling down, and, well, actually, Doctor Strange shows up. Ned opens a portal and accidentally gets Doctor Strange out of his prison, and Doctor Strange is like, oh, okay. And Alfred Molina, one of his tentacles gets slashed in half because of Green Goblin. But Doctor Strange has been here since, like, right around when Green Goblin showed up. Right about before that, Doctor Strange has been here. And he just, he casts, like, his spells, and, like, the shots that you see in the trailer, like, the purple's cutting the city. And, like, Toby looks up and he's like, am I dying? Am I dying? Is what happened? Or are you guys seeing this too? And they're like, oh, yeah, this is happening. And he's also like, Andrew's like, you're in total pain. And he's like, yeah, I'm in total pain right now. And that is nothing seen before this, right when they were in the middle of fighting, and then they just paused where they stopped for Andrew Garfield to break Toby Maguire's back. That's just what I want to see. He's like, yeah, from all that swinging, and it just cracks each other's back. And it's just like, my crowd was laughing and also just cheering for that little moment. It's just, that is what that's what this movie does. It gives you the fan service. It gives you all three Spider-Man swinging together, interacting with each other, and also all these 5 villains, these 5 amazing villains from the 5 other Spider-Man movies that aren't Far From Home and Homecoming or Venom. Well, we'll get to that eventually. But anyway, so Peter gets up to Doctor Strange, and so he's like, you need to cast a spell to have everybody forget that I'm Spider-Man. And he's like, forget that Spider-Man is me, that I have a link to Spider-Man. And he's like, I can't do that. That's what this spell is. And he's like, have everybody forget about me. And Peter and Doctor Strange, he's like, oh, you really wanted to do this? And he's like, there's no adjustments or anything that he's doing, but I understand. There's just this tension, and Doctor Strange, he sort of understands, and he's just like, be too bad that I couldn't remember you, Peter. And then he starts, like, he says, I'll give you a bit of time. And so, because reality is cracking, and everybody that Peter knew is going to be coming through. And I thought that'd be really cool to have everybody that Peter knew, but I feel like this could be, that they should have, I'm okay with them going smaller here. Just the 3 Spider-Man together. And so, Toby's got his arm around Andrew Garfield, and he's supporting him up, and they just hug each other. And he's like, Tom's like, great to see you guys. Goodbye, kind of a thing. It's just, that's what I was feeling. Another thing that I like for this movie is they didn't do any flashes into other universes. Little spoiler, they do have Venom in the movie. I'll talk about it. It's a post-credit scene, but anyway, they don't go to Venom's universe. They don't go to Toby's universe. They don't go to Andrew Garfield's universe. They stay in Tom Holland's universe, which I feel is great. They don't try to go all over the world. This is Tom Holland Spider-Man movie, and they make it that extremely clear. So anyway, he goes to MJ and Ned, and he's like, you guys are going to forget me. And just these 3 movies where we've had them together, just MJ, Ned, Peter, it's just such great chemistry between them. And it's just like, Ned hugs him, he's like, you'll remind me, right? And Tom Holland's like, I'm going to try to. And MJ, she's just like, stammering, like, really? You're gonna remind us, right? And this sort of stuff. And it's just like, so sad. And this is where the movie, you feel, it is bigger stakes. It is a better ending than the other movies. It's just, the other two movies, it's just like Aunt May discovers Peter Parker, and it's like, what the? And then we cut, and then same thing in Far From Home, where he's like, Peter Parker is Spider-Man. It's what the fuck? And then that's where it ends. And this movie, it doesn't do that. It ends on an actual Spider-Man kind of thing. And I'll get to the ending, but right now, MJ and Peter, they have one like final last kiss kind of a thing. And then the spell happens, and everybody gets sent back to the universe with like this golden glow, and everybody's fixed. And the two Spider-Men have met another Spider-Man, and it just feels right. They fixed everything. And Doctor Strange and everything sort of resets. And we go to Peter just walking, and he goes to this coffee shop now. And in that coffee shop, there's MJ working. And she's like, hey, and he's like, Peter, hey, I'm Peter Parker. And she's like, what can I get you, Peter Parker? And he's like, can I get a coffee? And so just, you see him looking at his friends. There's Ned there, they walk up, and they're friends, they're talking, and then she gives him a coffee. He's just texting. They just seem so free, not so bogged down. They seem more, they're not a couple, I don't think, but they're just friends, and they seem with less worry. And Peter's looking at this, and you're seeing it, understanding. He's understanding what's happening with them. And he decides that he's gonna do the best thing and let go. Because they got into college, he's gonna let them do their thing. Because he has learned with great power comes great responsibility. And it might not be the best thing for him, but he is gonna give them up. And it's so heartbreaking and sad. And it gets worse. Well, no, it gets better. But also worse at the same time. It gets sadder is the best way. He goes to Aunt May's grave. And when we first saw this, I thought this might be Andrew Garfield at Gwen Stacy's grave. The sort of shot, it's in the winter, it looks like. Yeah, it's in the winter. And that's sort of where we ended with Andrew Garfield and Gwen. So it is Tom Holland, and then he puts a rose at Aunt May's grave, and then Happy Hogan walks up, and he just like, he doesn't know who Peter is. He's just like, how'd you know her? And he's like, through Spider-Man, and he's like, the same. He's like, I only lost another person, and this was about as hard as that. And he's talking about Tony. And it's just, this is putting Tom Holland on a more mature, it's turning him from Spider-Boy to Spider-Man, and he is just crushing the performance, and you understand he is moving on for the better. I don't know if they're going to have MJ and Ned and Happy in the other movies. If they do, it's not going to be as comical. It's going to be more emotional and more actual needing them. And we're going in a totally different direction. This is the end of Spider-Boy, beginning of Spider-Man, where he gets his origin story sort of in this movie. He already got bit by the spider. He had the thing with Mysterio, and he had the thing with Tony Stark. But now he gets that line, with great power comes great responsibility. He loses his aunt/uncle. He has a great adventure with the Spider-Man. And then he loses everyone. MJ, Ned, Happy Hogan, Aunt May. They're all gone, basically. And he decides not to tell them. And he just moves in. And you see him. He moves into this place. And I feel like this seems a lot like the place that Peter Parker moved into in Spider-Man 2. And then also he's in Spider-Man 3. The guy, and it seems like the rent guy should be there. And maybe in these next 3 Spider-Man movies, we'll have that guy. And one cool thing that I noticed, MJ, she was just talking and giving a coffee to this guy, and it was Green Goblin. But it was him in this universe, and he's actually like this old guy. He's just old guy doing coffee. It's just, I don't know what that means, but it seems very interesting to me. But anyway, he's in this place, and it seems a really beat-up kind of room. And he seems to be in the exact same, I don't want to say 100%, but like the door. with the rent guy. And you just hear him when he's putting the bags in, like, some guy in the background's like, rent? And it's just like, I sort of wanted to see Rent Guy here. That would be so perfect, just to see Rent Guy and be like, give me your rent. And it's just, that guy, it would be so perfect. But I'm actually fine with them saving it for maybe future movies, because they're still dwelling on Spider-Man is growing up. And so he's lost all his tech because earlier in the movie, like way earlier in the movie, Edith was gone because, you know, the government was looking into Peter Parker. He lost all his technology and stuff. And now he's sort of lost his suits and stuff somehow. So you just have him. He moves into this place. He puts down the coffee cup for MJ. He puts down the Palpatine for Ned. The first time that we ever saw Ned was with the Palpatine. And you see, we have this thing. You see a sewing machine. And you see he made his own suit with just colors. And you have what I wanted from this Spider-Man. The perfect ending to the movie. He swings through New York City on the buildings in this really brightish blue kind of suit with about the red. You can't 100% see it really clearly, but he's swinging through there. He's finally doing it like Toby and Andrew. He has become the Spider-Man, and we end with his face going down, and like, we don't really hear him talk for this little bit, and it's just so perfect of an ending, so emotionally satisfying, so groundbreaking, because the MCU, I think sometimes they just play it safe, and this movie, I think they did sort of play it safe, but this movie, they matured Spider-Man. They really killed Ahmed. What they did was genius. And, like, earlier this year, Black Widow, pretty generic. Shang-Chi, okay, a bit crazy of an ending. It was really good. But this movie was just so amazing. Final thing here, we have two post-credit scenes. Well, two post-credit scenes. End of the first credits, we have Tom Hardy, and he's sort of talking with Venom, but you don't see Venom. He's just talking to this guy, the bartender, and he's like, so there's an Iron Man, so there's a green guy, that's the Hulk, there's a purple alien who likes stones, and everybody got blipped away for 5 years. He's just trying to understand this, and he's like, well, I think I should go see the Spider-Man guy in New York, and like, oh, are we actually going to do this? And then Venom's like, we are drunk, Eddie. We need to do this or something. And then they're like, oh, we're leaving, not already. And then they just leave. And so that just seems like such not of an amazing way for them to go. Like, their post-credit scene, they're in the MCU. This post-credit scene, they get out of the MCU. How amazing. Well, but the only reason that they even got here, maybe to learn this, maybe they're going to make like a Avengers team of their own. That'd be really cool to see. But anyway, they ends with there's a drop and a bit of Venom symbiote just got away. And it just crawls away. And that's the end. So that just seems like, yeah, I'm okay with that. Maybe we could see like Flash or something become Venom. But it doesn't make sense for Flash to be Venom now because Flash doesn't remember Peter Parker. So be cool to see, you know, like an actually good-looking Venom kind of thing in this universe. Nice to see how they do that. They did announce they're coming out with 3 more Spider-Man movies, with Tom Holland, which I think they should do. And then we get this really great final post-credit scene with Doctor Strange in the Multi-Universe of Madness. And this, the more I think about it, the more I look forward to it. And I think it was, I think Spider-Man No Way Home was above it. Now it's the #1 most anticipated MCU movie that's coming out. And it's the next one coming out, so I'm really anticipating it. But anyway, you get it, and he's like, I didn't want any of this to happen. And you have him walking through this thing, and then you see Wanda, and he just meets her, and he's like, I don't want to talk about Westview. He's like, what do you know about the multi-universe? And there's also this other star girl, kind of thing, star person. Superhero. You don't see her in powers, but I looked it up and that's who she is. And you just have Doctor Strange open this door and they're in like this multi-universe thing and it's really cool. Also, you have Doctor Strange fighting like a starfish with a giant eye in the middle. It looks sort of like the starfish from Suicide Squad, but smaller, and I think it's green. Just remember this because I only saw it once. And then Doctor Strange, you have the guy Mordo, I think, and you have him be like, the biggest threat to the universe is yourself. And you have a Doctor Strange variant of him. I don't know, but it's like a darker version of him. If it's Strange Supreme, I'm just gonna lose my mind because I love Strange Supreme so much in What If. And you have him like, oh, this is gonna be fun. I think that's what he said. I think he said, oh, this is gonna be fun. Or like, things just got a bit more better. Something like that. And then that's basically the end of it. You see Scarlet Witch do some Scarlet Witch magic. But just that trailer just gets me so hyped for the movie. So that's Spider-Man No Way Home. Yeah. Comment down below if you liked it or not. Or if you haven't seen it, what do you think of it from what I've described? Like, I know some people, they're really looking forward to it. And if you haven't seen it, I would recommend checking it out if you can, because it's really good. Or just wait until you can get it on DVD or whatever, because it's probably not coming to Disney+. But 100% check it out when you can. It's an amazing movie. One of the best of the year. And it just is so amazing. What was your favorite part of it? What? But anyway, this week I'm going to be doing a lot of Spider-Man rankings. The villains, the trilogies, the movies, the final battles, and maybe I'll just do like another one. I don't know. It's just I am going to be doing a bunch of rankings. So subscribe to see that. Just so you know, if you're watching this video, if you've even made it to this long, I am going to be doing the Darwin Wimpy Kid book ranking. I'm reading through the books right now. They came in through the library, so I'm reading through them. I'm working on the ranking. You should expect it week after Christmas, probably. And also, subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you can see me rank all, right now, 60 movies that I've seen that came out this year. It's probably going to be around, like, 65, maybe, by the end of the year. I don't know. We'll see. I'm going to try to see as much as I can in the final end. Merry Christmas, everybody. Please like, subscribe to max your views. Merry Christmas, and Braden out.